The movie begins with Eddie Barish making a partial payment to his mechanic when he gets a call from his daughter, Sarah. He chooses not to answer and instead asks the mechanic for a discount because he can't afford the expensive replacement part for his van. He explains that he desperately needs the vehicle so he can get back to work and earn money, but the mechanic shows no sympathy. He tells Eddie that if he wants his van fixed, he has to pay the full amount first, then orders him to leave the shop. Eddie finally answers the call, only to have his ex-wife, Amy, confront him for failing to pick Sarah up at the agreed time. She tells him she hates the idea of Sarah walking home alone, and reminds him that if they're trying to repair their relationship, mistakes like this can't keep happening. After the call ends, Eddie notices a wallet full of cash carelessly left on a table. He creates a distraction, gets close enough, and successfully steals the money. Eddie doesn't have a steady job and has a hard time borrowing money, so he spends what little he has on scratch-off lottery tickets and constantly looks for anything he can steal. He checks parked cars, hoping to find one left unlocked, but luck isn't on his side. While wandering the streets, he receives another call from Sarah. She tells him she's upset because he never came to pick her up from school, and she had to wait 2 hours before they finally let her leave. Eddie apologizes and claims he had a few things he had to take care of. Sarah sweetly tells him she loves him, and he says he loves her too before hanging up, pretending he's on his way to work. In reality, he has spotted what looks like the perfect opportunity. He finds a luxury SUV parked inside a garage and walks over to see if he can steal it. To his surprise, it's unlocked. Without thinking twice, he climbs inside and shuts the door. He searches everywhere for the keys but can't find them. Realizing he won't be able to steal the vehicle, he tries to get out, only to discover that he's trapped inside. Eddie hides whenever people pass by the SUV, and once he's alone, he starts trying to smash the windows. Unfortunately for him, the vehicle is fully armored, and kicking the glass barely leaves a mark. Growing desperate, he kicks even harder, unaware that no one outside can hear the noise coming from inside. Suddenly, the SUV receives a call from an unknown number labeled, "Answer me." Eddie ignores it and continues searching for a way out, never suspecting that someone is secretly watching him through hidden cameras inside the vehicle. He finds a metal tool and tries to smash the window with it, but the attempt fails, and the armored glass isn't even scratched. The mysterious phone rings again, but Eddie refuses to answer. Instead, he keeps trying to escape by forcing the door open, only to injure himself in the process. He then tries using his cell phone, but it has no signal. It appears the SUV is equipped with a signal jammer. When the unknown caller rings yet again, Eddie, exhausted and out of options, finally answers. The man introduces himself as William, the SUV's rightful owner. Eddie doesn't care who he is and immediately starts cursing at him. In response, he's hit with a powerful electric shock. The leather seats are equipped with a system that can deliver an electric current, and William can activate it remotely. Eddie begs William to let him out, but William refuses. He says he simply wants to have a conversation. He explains that the SUV is specially armored and that there's absolutely no way Eddie can escape without his permission. Terrified, Eddie keeps pleading to be released, but William calmly repeats that he only wants to talk and learn more about the young man who has made a habit of causing trouble. Eddie has no interest in talking. He pulls a handgun from his backpack and fires at the window, still failing to realize the SUV is bulletproof. The bullet ricochets off the glass and strikes him in the leg instead. Outside, a woman walks past the luxury vehicle. Eddie screams for help, but she never notices him. She simply uses the SUV's side mirror to fix her makeup before walking away. That moment convinces Eddie that no one outside can hear his screams or the pounding on the glass. Bleeding heavily and growing more desperate by the second, he begs William to call an ambulance because he needs a doctor. William calmly replies that he is a doctor and can help him. Eddie doesn't care, he just wants out. He even tells William to call the police if that's what it takes. As the pain worsens and the bleeding continues, Eddie keeps pleading for his freedom. William refuses, explaining that Eddie is nothing more than a thief who made the unfortunate mistake of choosing the wrong vehicle. His SUV was deliberately designed as a trap for anyone who tried to steal it. Finally, Eddie asks William what he really wants. William tells him to listen carefully. He says he wants Eddie to truly regret the crime he committed. At that moment, Eddie finally begins to realize the terrible mistake he has made. William then begins talking about himself, but after losing a significant amount of blood, Eddie grows weaker and weaker. Barely able to stay conscious, he asks for some water. William calmly tells him that, in his current condition, he could survive up to 48 hours without drinking. Hearing that, Eddie finally blacks out. When he wakes up, it's already nighttime. He notices that someone treated his wounds while he was unconscious, but he's still trapped inside the SUV. At sunrise, William calls him again to continue their conversation. As William starts talking about his family, Eddie cuts him off, saying he has no interest in hearing anything about his personal life. He insults William again and says all he wants is food and water. William tells him he doesn't tolerate foul language, then punishes him by activating another series of electric shocks through the seats. Afterward, he turns on the radio, blasting an irritating song, and sets the air conditioning to its coldest setting. At first, Eddie manages to endure it, but after several hours, the non-stop music and freezing temperature begin driving him insane, while William continues watching him through the SUV's hidden cameras. As night falls, Eddie is freezing and can barely take it anymore. William calls him again, and this time Eddie apologizes for his earlier behavior. Satisfied, William finally turns off the freezing air conditioning. The next day, Eddie is forced to relieve himself inside the SUV. Bored and desperate, he resumes searching for any opening in the vehicle's frame that might help him escape. William calls again, mocking Eddie's miserable appearance, and making it clear that he's been watching him the entire time. Looking around carefully, Eddie notices a man standing on one of the balconies of a nearby building, holding a phone and staring directly at the SUV while talking to him. Eddie tries to cover one of the hidden cameras with a piece of chewing gum, but before he can do it, William hits him with another powerful electric shock. Eddie asks William what he'll do if he dies, pointing out that getting rid of a dead body won't be easy. William, however, speaks about society's indifference toward crime and criminals, insisting that Eddie's disappearance wouldn't matter because, in reality, no one would miss him. Feeling as though death is getting closer, Eddie begs William to show him some mercy. That's when William reveals that he has cancer and doesn't have much time left to live. He says that's exactly why he's doing this, because he wants to deliver justice himself. In his opinion, the legal system fails to punish criminals like Eddie the way they deserve, often letting them walk free. William continues talking about justice and how many criminals receive light sentences or parole. Then he presents Eddie with a horrifying choice. He wants him to cut off 4 of his own fingers. Eddie immediately refuses, arguing that this has nothing to do with real justice. The conversation continues, and Eddie talks about the inequality in society. He argues that the system is designed to favor wealthy people like William, while the poor struggle just to survive. Even buying basic necessities like food and medicine has become incredibly difficult. William defends himself, claiming that everything he owns was earned through hard work and that he started from nothing, just like many other successful people. Trying to teach Eddie a moral lesson, he quotes the commandment, "Thou shalt not steal." After that, he ends the call and turns the irritating music back on. Another day passes in the merciless city, but this time William switches to a different form of torture. He cranks the heat inside the SUV to an unbearable level, forcing Eddie to strip down until he's almost naked. The psychological torture becomes even worse when Eddie watches rain falling through the sunroof, unable to feel even a single drop despite his overwhelming thirst. In a moment of desperation, he even considers drinking his own urine but can't bring himself to do it. William calls again, and when Eddie asks why this torture never ends, William reveals that he's spent a great deal of time and money designing this entire setup. Since he doesn't have much time left to live, he intends to enjoy his creation for as long as he can. He then asks Eddie for his ID number so he can look up his criminal record. In return, William promises him some water. Eddie gives him the information, and William turns off the heat before directing him to a hidden bottle of water inside the SUV. Eddie eagerly drinks it, finally quenching his thirst and feeling a sense of relief. A little later, Eddie remembers the scratch-off lottery tickets he bought earlier. He realizes he never scratched the last section. When he finally does, he discovers that he has won $500, more than enough to get his van back from the repair shop. Tragically, he realizes it's too late. If he had checked the ticket earlier, he would have been home instead of trapped in this nightmare. William understands exactly how Eddie feels, but he refuses to stop what he started. He insists that every action has consequences, and everyone must face them. Eddie apologizes for breaking into William's SUV and begs for something to eat because he's starving. William isn't moved by the apology, but since he wants Eddie to survive longer, he unlocks the glove compartment and tells him there's a cracker inside. As Eddie reaches for the food, he notices some kind of electronic device hidden at the bottom of the compartment. Before he can get a closer look, however, the compartment suddenly shuts by itself. A few moments later, William receives another phone call. By accident, Eddie overhears part of the conversation about one of William's patients. William quickly ends the call, and at that moment, Eddie notices that the man on the nearby balcony has walked away. Realizing this may be his only chance, he opens the glove compartment again and spots the device he believes controls the SUV's electrical system. As he reaches toward one of its buttons, he's immediately shocked. William, unaware of what Eddie was trying to do, simply tells him to keep his hands where he can see them. The next day passes with Eddie carefully trying to press the hidden button beneath the dashboard using his feet, but he can't make it work. Outside, the rain keeps pouring, and Eddie struggles with unbearable thirst. The only liquid he has left is a bottle containing some of his own urine. After hesitating for a long time, he finally gathers the courage to drink it, easing his thirst just enough to keep going. That night, Eddie continues pressing the button until, unexpectedly, the SUV starts. Overjoyed, he immediately drives away, but his excitement lasts only a few moments. After traveling just a short distance, the SUV suddenly stops on its own. William calls him, laughing at how foolish Eddie has been. Then he activates the cruise control and remotely drives the SUV at reckless speeds through the city, terrifying Eddie. William steers the SUV into a dark alley, where they find two men brutally beating a third man. He comments that society doesn't care about people like them before running over one of the attackers. He then chases the second man until trapping him against a metal gate. Eddie screams, begging William to stop, but William asks why he should, when people like Eddie never follow the rules themselves. Eddie admits that he's broken society's rules, but William backs the SUV away and tells him that if the criminal can get back on his feet, he'll let Eddie go free. The injured man painfully manages to sit up, but William floors the accelerator and mercilessly runs him over, leaving Eddie horrified. As if that weren't enough, William continues driving recklessly before taking the SUV to the rooftop parking garage of a tall building. He circles dangerously close to the edge over and over again, trying to frighten Eddie even more. Finally, he speeds straight toward the edge of the roof but slams on the brakes at the very last second before the SUV can plunge off. Eddie smashes his head against the interior and loses consciousness. When he wakes up the following morning, William is still driving. He tells Eddie he has news about Amy and Sarah, then reveals that he visited their apartment. The revelation terrifies Eddie. William confronts him, asking whether he truly loves his family, considering he's been an irresponsible father who hasn't paid child support in 2 years. Because of that, the government officially classified him as an unfit parent. William then drives to Sarah's school and forces Eddie to watch as his young daughter walks home alone. Convinced that William is completely insane, Eddie desperately begs him to leave Sarah alone. Instead, William accelerates toward her, making it appear as though he's about to run her over. Terrified, Eddie confesses all of his mistakes and promises he'll do anything William asks. William tells him there's only one way to save his daughter. As Eddie watches the SUV race towards Sarah after she falls to the ground, he grabs the handgun, points it at his own head, and pulls the trigger, believing that's the sacrifice William wants. Nothing happens. William had secretly emptied the gun beforehand. In that moment, William realizes just how far Eddie is willing to go to save his daughter. Later that night, while William continues lecturing him about society, Eddie finally reaches his breaking point. He smashes the bottle and begins destroying every hidden camera inside the SUV, even as repeated electric shocks surge through his body. Moments later, memories of his life with Sarah flood his mind. He records a voice message for her, telling her how much he loves her and apologizing for never being the father she deserved. Suddenly, the SUV comes to a stop inside a parking garage, where another vehicle is waiting. Eddie watches carefully as a man approaches the luxury SUV. The man rolls down the window and reveals that he is William. Eddie snaps and tries to attack him, but another electric shock stops him. William tosses him a pair of handcuffs, orders him to chain himself to the base of the seat, leaves a bag full of tools on the back seat, and climbs into the driver's seat. For the first time, Eddie finally sees William's face. He's an elderly man. William loads the handgun with fresh bullets, tells Eddie they're going on a long trip, and even offers him some candy before driving off. A few minutes later, while looking through the bag filled with saws and hammers, Eddie asks William what he plans to do with him. Is he going to torture him only to kill him in the end? William calmly replies that he doesn't really have a plan, he simply wants Eddie to experience hell. That's when the truth comes out. After suffering countless personal losses, William has turned himself into a vigilante. He hunts down criminals, subjects them to unimaginable pain, and then gives them a brutal death. He makes it clear that Eddie is just his latest victim. While talking, Eddie notices a bracelet with the name, Emma, on it. He asks William why he's making this feel like some twisted family road trip. The question infuriates William so much that he slams on the brakes, causing Eddie to smash his face into the interior several times. Eddie keeps pushing, asking William how he lost his daughter. William reveals that a criminal just like Eddie murdered her. As William talks, Eddie secretly reaches for the hidden button beneath the dashboard. Even though he knows he's probably going to die, he continues provoking the old man, telling him that Emma would never have wanted her father to spend years luring criminals into traps, torturing them, and murdering them in cold blood. Despite his injuries, Eddie refuses to back down. He tells William that he doesn't understand what it's like to survive on the streets, where people have to be clever just to stay alive. At that exact moment, Eddie finally manages to activate the hidden button. The SUV's systems fail, causing William to lose control. The vehicle crashes into a hillside, and during the impact, William accidentally fires the handgun. The bullet barely misses Eddie's head before striking William in the shoulder. The SUV then flips over several times as it rolls down the hill before finally coming to a stop. As dawn approaches, Eddie's cell phone finally picks up a signal again. He regains consciousness and sees William unconscious beside him. Eddie struggles to free himself so he can grab the handgun, but William wakes up and reaches for it as well. Eddie manages to break free just in time, wrestles the old man to the ground, and finally gains control of the weapon, aiming it directly at William. Just before he can pull the trigger, Sarah calls him. Eddie answers immediately. She tells him she was terrified after hearing the voice message he left her. Eddie reassures her that everything is okay now. She asks him to come pick her up from school that day, and he promises that he will. After ending the call, Eddie notices the SUV has caught fire. He begs William to unlock the doors, but the old man is left with no way out and dies inside the burning vehicle. Eddie grabs a hammer and repeatedly smashes the armored glass until he finally breaks free and escapes the flames. Once he's safe, he picks up his cell phone, only to discover the battery has died. He climbs up the hill until he reaches the main road, where he waits for someone to stop and help him. Besides feeling relieved that he escaped the insane vigilante, he's also happy that he still has the winning lottery ticket. A passing driver notices Eddie's condition, offers him a ride, and takes him back into the city. Eddie finally collects enough money to repair his van. When he realizes the mechanic still needs more time to finish the repairs, he borrows a bicycle and races to Sarah's school. Sarah is waiting outside, convinced that her father has let her down once again. But when she unexpectedly sees him arrive, she runs toward him with excitement and throws her arms around him. After everything he's been through, Eddie finally learns that crime never leads to anything good, that his family must always come first, and that he has to keep striving for a better life, even if it means starting over from nothing. And that's how the movie ends. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to the channel for more movie recaps.